was out
Wait,
of
it's pronounced Forbes?
Forbes, Forbes. Yeah.
Oh my God, man. You know how many times I've said Forbes? Oh my God.
Oh no.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
Forbes. I should
What's
have
the
gotten that
first
from
episode,
Orbeez. Like,
dude?
I should, man.
The outpouring of support that I have received since I restarted this podcast has been unbelievably inspirational. Thank you for allowing me to feel empowered to do what I do. $50 a day for ad space on Facebook will do it. I'm talking to Balin live from Florida. It's Stranger Than Christian.
Hello.
Okay, so I don't want the first thing I do I don't want the first thing I do to be to mess up your name. How do you pronounce your first name? Is it Balin?
Yes, sir.
Oh God, I was right. I was talking to my wife before we started, and I said, it can't be Balin, although that would be awesome. But I figured, how's it going, man?
It's good. It's good. How about you?
Not too bad. Did you work today?
Yes, sir.
So what do you do for a living?
I'm in construction now.
Okay. Do you do a lot of the heavy lifting, or are you like a supervisor?
Yeah, I'm a laborer, so right now I'm only on the ground mainly. I shovel
Oh, okay.
pretty
What
much
are you
all day.
working on? What's the project?
So we're in the housing market, but we don't actually build the houses. We build the roads for them. We build the pads that the houses actually go on. We terraform the land all around it. We do everything to do with the house except the actual house, like the water works, everything.
And your job right now, I'm not really familiar with construction or like construction terms or like what I always see construction, but I'm never really sure what anybody's doing. So like, what did you do today? Like, what was your day today?
Today, actually, I got to change it up a bit. But we start out in the mornings. We go to the Connex box, just a big shipping container. You know, you see them on those Chinese ships, those giant metal boxes. We store our stuff in those and lock it every night. So we get the tools we're going to use for the day, which mine is usually a shovel. But today, I actually got to run a skid steer. It was a nice change of pace, a lot less havoc on the body. But normal day would be I get to work, get my tools, and I clean up around curbs to make sure it looks good and it's ready for sod, about 1.5 inches to be laid around the entire. Sometimes I'll follow whoever's on the skid steer or the loader or the bulldozer and make sure the ground stays flat in between blade pass. So not a whole lot, not very interesting.
You sound like you've been doing it for a long time, though. You proud of your work?
Proud, not super proud of
Okay.
this job or the last. I've been doing construction for about 6 months. 2 years prior, I was working at a fast food place. So,
Oh, what fast food place?
Steak and Shake. I was working at a Steak and Shake down here in Florida. I got the job when I was 16, and I was working legally. If you work over, I think it's 40 hours for a long enough time, I think it's a month. They have to offer you full-time position with benefits. They can't be working you full-time hours constantly and you be a part-time employee. So at 16, I was working full-time hours, so they had to eventually offer me a full-time position, which that's a tedious thing. It's a slippery slope on their end because a 16-year-old isn't a full-time job because they have to be in school.
And how old are you now?
I'm 18.
Okay.
18. But I got my benefits and everything. It actually made people pretty upset because most of the people there were part-time workers. But I had I guess you could say dropped out of school because I moved around so much that in the end of my junior year, they called me into the counselors and they told me that I didn't have any credits for my freshman or sophomore, and they wanted me to retake those classes. And I just said I'm not going to do that. I didn't like school in the first place, but I was going to just push through, get it done, and then that happened to me. So I just went to working. I had my baby a few months ago. I got married, and I've been doing pretty good since then.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
What's the baby's name?
River.
River. That's a beautiful name. Boy?
It's a girl.
Oh, it's a
Yep.
girl. Okay, okay. I'm sorry. River Phoenix is the
Yeah.
only other river I know, so that's the only frame of reference.
Yeah, I haven't really met any rivers in my life. The middle name we couldn't decide on one. So we put a bunch of random names that we liked and we picked them out of a hat and we picked Monroe. So her name's River Monroe Deaver. She is 10 months old as of 4 days ago.
God bless you. That's awesome. Sometimes I wonder how people names. Like my middle name is William, and I think that it comes from some distant uncle or some relative of mine that my parents must have really liked. So they named me Christian William. My first name, actually, there was a kid in about the late '80s named Christian Prince, and he lived in New Haven, where I'm from, New Haven, Connecticut. Went to Yale University, and he got robbed and killed after a concert on Yale's campus. And I think that my dad thought it was so sad that he named me Christian. It was actually one of the events that led to there being emergency call boxes on college campuses, that his death sparked that whole push to get those on college campuses throughout the country. You didn't ask, but that's where my name comes from.
No. That's great. I mean, that's terrible. That the background story. That's a very sad thing. But that's
Right.
cool that you actually have a background story for your name. My name, Balin. It's an Irish name. My mom just picked it out of an Irish book. She really liked it. My dad actually tried naming me Floyd after my grandpa. My mom was like, "No, don't you dare! I don't like that name." And he was pretty set to it. And then his mom said, "Don't do that. Why would you do that?" So he decided to let her name me Balin. But my middle name, it's just named after my dad, his first name.
Oh, okay.
Backstory there.
Balin, does that have a meaning? Is it like a Gaelic word?
uh, I haven't really looked into it. I did Google it one time, and I guess it means soldier um in Ireland. But I'm not much of a soldier. I mean, I power through things. I didn't
Right.
join the army.
Listen, you're a steak and shake soldier.
Yeah, steak and construction.
So
Yeah,
working construction, and you've only been working construction for 6 months because you sound like you're really. And when I say into it, it just sounds like you know what you're talking about. You have the confidence of somebody who's been there for a while.
yeah. I mean, construction it's a come and go thing. A lot of people join and quit. Not nearly as many as like Steak and Shake. You see people come and go every day at a fast food joint, but construction is just it's a very volatile workplace, and it's very hard on your body, especially somewhere like Florida. It's super humid and very hot, and all you do is work outside, especially for labor. So laborers don't always last too long, but it's a pretty good pay considered if you're comparing it to Steak and Shake, but they pay you a little more because it's terrible work, and if the work isn't really worth what it does to you in the long run. But you got a family, got to supply for them.
Right. Yeah. And I was going to say it must come in handy if, raising a kid, especially
Yeah,
months in.
yeah. I think I doubled my pay. But that I'm not making double an hour, but I'm working way more hours. Steak and Shake, I would work 40, 50 hours a week, and at this job, I'll work anywhere between 50 and 70 hours. Depends. Right now, work is, but typically get 50, 60.
Other than it being slow, what's your least favorite part of what you do for a living right now?
Oh, all of it, man.
Really?
The drive, a lot of the time I have to drive an hour and a half. You got to spend money to make money. It's the same as podcasting. You got to spend the money for the equipment to make the money in the long run, or to make a name for yourself. But being outside all day is probably the worst, because I'm not a Floridian like the people here that were born here and lived here their whole lives. I mean, I was born in Florida, but at a very young age, I moved up to Idaho on a mountain, and then moved to North Dakota. And Idaho in the winter is like maybe 16 degrees lowest during the day. North Dakota in the winter, I think it got -50, -60 one time. And then we moved down here, and it's been 90 something degrees the last few days. I can't deal with that heat. It kills me.
From Florida to Idaho, that's a big difference. There has to be a reason for that.
Yeah. So I don't know the exact reason why my grandparents moved up to Idaho. I think they were in Montana, and then they moved over to Idaho. And my grandpa, he became ill to a certain degree. He wasn't like ill visually. See, he had some heart problems. He had an aortic aneurysm. They found it when he fell down and cracked a couple ribs. So my dad was like, "We're going. We're moving up there. We're going to be close." And an aortic aneurysm it's really bad. It's on your aorta, so it's vein. But so we went up there to be around them. But then eventually, where we were in Idaho, there's no work. There's not a lot of work in Idaho, especially on that mountain. So my dad started working in North Dakota to supply for us while we were in Idaho. And then
Now, is your dad a
Eventually,
laborer as well, the way you're working now?
he's a construction worker, but he's a big boss. His whole life, he did what I'm doing right now, and he's ruined his body just to get to the point where he's at, which I respect him a lot for doing that for us. But now he's to the position in a company, really anywhere he wants to go in construction. He can he tells people what to do now. He doesn't have to go.
Good for him. Yeah.
But that's how I got in this company.
Oh,
He
okay.
hired me in this
Right
company.
for him. Okay, excellent. Isn't it great
Yeah.
to have like a parent who has a job and you can like get in there?
Yeah, it makes things a lot easier, but it kind of I don't mean to sound any vulgar or anything on your podcast. It kind of screwed me over a little bit because he quit after I hired on.
Balin, you can say whatever the fuck
Being
you
a big boss. Yeah, after being a big boss, just quitting and not exactly like quitting with zero burned bridges. They're not gonna like the kid that just started working. That was his son too much. Which I'm still in the company, and he quit a few months ago. I think 2 months ago now. But it's it. I'm kind of in a dead place in the company because they don't like him anymore. They hate him, and so by default they hate me. Now my direct bosses don't hate me, and their direct bosses don't hate me, but the big boss in the company, he doesn't like me. He won't even look at me. So I'm stuck as a laborer. If I stay in this company for my entire life, I'll be a laborer. So I'm actively looking for another job.
Does
But
going to work stress you out knowing that everybody there has a negative opinion of you?
um, it depends on the day. If I know that the big boss Andy is going to be out there, yes, I'll be a little stressed because it's very awkward, especially when he'll drive by and talk to the whole group of us and make it. He doesn't just ignore me. He makes it very apparent that he's ignoring me. Like, he'll be looking around everyone and say good morning or whatever, and then he'll snap his head straight across me, which I don't get because all I've done is work for them, right? And my dad didn't screw them over in any way. He just we're from. There's a very big difference between people down here and people up in North Dakota, Idaho. Everyone, the culture is different. People are different. It was a little hard for me to integrate into society here because I grew up there. So he didn't get along too well with them. But there's a lot of buddy in this company, and big bosses and bosses can't be friends with small people and be strict at the same time. So it caused a lot of problems in the company. He told my dad to do something. My dad would do it and then like quit being late to work. That guy that he told to quit being late to work is friends with the big boss, and he went and told the big boss that Wade, my dad, said that, and so the big boss would go off on him. And he finally just said, "Look, this isn't going to work if you don't back me on everything I do." So he quit, and it put me in the position where it's very awkward. It's very awkward.
Well, it sounds like your dad was in the same position to a certain degree as well, because it sounds like everybody was already buddy, and then he was in there,
Yeah,
and it doesn't sound like they
yeah, of
let him in
course.
the same way they're not letting you in.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he didn't do anything wrong. I don't blame him for leaving. If I could leave right now, snapping my fingers, I would. But it's just it's an awkward situation for anyone to be in. But I'm working to get out of it. It's kind of cool that I have a little bit of off time compared to what I was working now with all this virus stuff going on because I can focus on podcasting, and I didn't really have any time to do it myself. So I got my buddy with me, and we decided to start a little podcast.
Tell me
So
about it. Tell me
it
about your
gives me
podcast,
something to do.
and tell me the name of it. Tell me
Now,
everything
okay.
about
So the podcast is it's called The Oddest of Ends, right? And we started it and we kind of had a little vision in mind. It was so he's 61 years old. I worked with him at Steak and Shake. I'm 18. And I liked that dynamic. Like we could talk about certain things and some people would be able to hear the same side but two different angles. Like, people that are older look at things a lot differently than people that are younger like me and you. Or like I don't mean that to a certain degree. There's some people will see the same thing the
No,
same
I
way.
understand what
But
you mean. People, yeah, with age,
I
you get different viewpoints on things. You start to
yeah
care less, I feel like, as you get older as well. You're less
yeah,
self-aware.
and that can go to me. That can go two different ways because like and this is no offense to anybody, but when we were working at Steak and Shake, the people that we disliked most coming in were elderly. I was always taught respect. They helped build our country to where it is today. But they're very rude, and I think it can go two ways. You either get the really nice ones that don't care and like, oh fuck them, you're awesome, or you get the ones that are like, fuck everybody, I hate you, and it's usually the ones that are like, fuck everybody, I hate you. Here's a dollar tip, or
Right.
a quarter tip. But it's me and Marlon have a cool dynamic. He's You know, I want to have you on the podcast one day so you can experience this. He's a character, and that's how he describes me, is I'm a character. We always had this dynamic between us at work, and we just made everyone laugh, and I wanted to bring that to people. But we kind of went into the podcast half-cocked. So we only have one episode out, and we just made the decision to remove it and redo it because the way things went. I've been emailing medium-sized YouTubers to see if they would be interested in coming onto the podcast, and one of them actually just called me about 2 hours ago, and he said he's down. So I want to go into it from a different way. Yeah. I'm excited. It's weird. I watched this guy for years, and out of nowhere I get a call and I'm talking to him way up in Canada. It's
Technology
crazy.
is so cool because it's like it opens up an entire world of people who otherwise you would never get a chance to work with. I mean, one of the things that consistently fascinates me about talking to people like this is how far away they are. You're in Florida right now. I'm in central Pennsylvania, but we're talking as if we're in the same room. I'll never, no matter how far technology progresses and no matter how cool things get, I will always be fascinated. I think that is just the coolest thing. Even when I was younger and the dream of like having a picture, you know, being able to teleport, like when those things were not a reality, you know, especially like a picture phone, because we all have one in our pocket now. I'll never not think that is cool.
Yeah, that's all. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I am 31. I just turned 31 on May 9th.
All right, yeah. So you're still pretty young. It's cool. It's cool you say that. I always find myself wondering. Now that I'm 18, this is a big weird thing. I looked in the mirror the other day. You know, I turned 18 2 months ago. I always wondered what I would look like when I was growing. And I feel like I'm kind of an anomaly because I look the exact same as when I was 10. Like I just got taller.
What do you look like? Describe what you look like.
I got a fat face. It's very round. Especially
same.
Especially last year. I was working out every single day. When I was working at Steak and Shake. I was working out every day. I was ripped, man. Six pack. My arms were getting bigger. I was actually finally getting weight in the right. And I got my wife pregnant, and I stopped going. You put priorities in different places, and I have gained 60 pounds. I'm still not fat, but it shows in my face. I've got really curly hair, and I've been letting it grow out the last few months, and it grows very, very quickly. So I'm going to see where that goes. I'm just going to let that grow out, see where it goes. But yeah, I'm about 6 foot. I wear joggers when I'm not at work being comfortable, and I don't care how trashy I look.
Listen, I do the same thing. I wear a pair of basketball shorts when I go out to the supermarket and stuff. Yeah, I don't care. Listen, yeah. I've been married for 3 years. I've already impressed the person that I need to impress. After that, it's all bonus points after that.
Yeah. And I've got 6 tattoos, 3 of which I've done.
You done it yourself?
Yeah, I bought a tattoo gun.
Tattoo yourself? Is it like a stick and poke?
No, I did one stick and poke, and then a few weeks ago I bought my own tattoo. Which, was it a bad idea? Probably, but the first tattoo I did with it actually came out decent. It was you ever watch Adventure Time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did Finn's sword.
That's awesome. Does that have some significance
on my leg,
or is it just a show that you like?
I like that you brought it up. So when I was younger, I think the first episode came out. Yeah, that's about right. 9 or 10. And I remember the first episode I saw when it premiered. I was like, I don't like this. And then 2 years later, when there was a couple seasons out, I started watching. I'm like, I really like this. I got into it, and I watched it up until the point where I moved to North Dakota. And then I kind of fell out of it. I was busy. I was dating. I was doing all that. But then I came back to it, and I rewatched the entire series, which made me sad. But it's coming back this month. And I realized more and more that me and my brother, the way we speak was partially formulated by that show. Like when we get together and we're talking, we use so many quotes from that show. Like, I don't know, man. And we don't even realize that we're doing that. And I rewatched it with my wife, and I'm like, wow. So me being the young, slightly immature person, I went and I got an Adventure Time half sleeve.
Wow. That's awesome.
Which it looks good.
Yeah. Describe it to me. Tell me what it looks like.
Alrighty. So, you can actually find the image on Google that I used as a reference, but and I'll have to send it to you. But it's Finn holding a sword with his head kind of angled down, holding it to where the sword's in between his eyes. Princess Bubblegum kind of towering above him. There's tree trunks to the right, LSP to the left. Jake is kind of stretched all around the picture. Lady Rainicorn is kind of stretched all around the picture, and the tattoo artist forgot BMO's eyes.
Gotcha. Well, you can just do it yourself. You got it. You're okay.
Yeah,
just throw them on later. So this show, and it's funny because I feel like every generation, I'm a huge TV nerd. I feel like every generation, especially the last few generations has a cartoon that has that level of significance for them, whether it's Adventure Time. I love Adventure Time. I think Adventure Time ushered in an entire generation of animation that was so different from what we were used to from the 90s. It takes a lot of inspiration from, like, I don't know if you're very familiar with like early 90s Nickelodeon, like Ren and Stimpy and
Yeah, I
Rocko's
mean,
Modern Life, shows like that.
slightly. There's certain, like, I wouldn't be able to talk about that,
Well, that's
but
okay. But that is that beginning of that particular generation of animation, and everything looked like that for a while. Everything was sort of goofball, and everything was sort of off the map. And Adventure Time brought it to this incredible level where they built this entire universe around these two characters. And I've always personally admired things like that. I've always admired the ability to spin an entire world from your imagination. I think that's just the coolest thing in the world. So yeah, Adventure Time is definitely one of those milestone shows that I can imagine would feed the imagination of an entire generation of kids.
yeah, it was cool. I was recently reading about Adventure Time, and I was like, they have these shows that they're decent, especially at first, but they last forever. Like, there's shows out there that have 20 something seasons, like The Simpsons, right? And I'm not a huge fan of this, right? Personally, I never really got into that, but anybody can testify that certain shows like Simpsons and Family Guy, they have off seasons, especially when they've done so many things. It's hard to think of new
Right.
content. But I'm looking at Adventure Time, and I'm like, they only did 8 seasons or 9 seasons. They could have went so much further, especially with the world that they set up for these characters. So I was wondering what on earth made them cancel. So I started reading about it, and it said that the biggest factor was they made the show, and it's kind of like Rick and Morty. They didn't expect it to blow up like it did. They weren't ready for it. They weren't prepared for it. They didn't have anything set up for a show like this. They usually try to comprehend that and plan that out beforehand. And they said that was inevitably a failure for the show. They were never ready for its.
A lot of people aren't ready for that level of
Yeah,
success. Well, especially in TV, because you make a TV show and you expect it to last a season. You hope it lasts. I mean, in the case of The Simpsons, like, who could predict? Like, 3 decades later, there are still new episodes
yeah,
coming out. You could never predict that. But it's funny that fame and success, especially in that sphere, are like, they're good, but they're bad. They're a total double-edged sword. And when you create a successful TV show, like, you can go one of two ways. You can either make it until you're satisfied and then quit while you're ahead, or you can keep pushing that machine as far as it'll go and do the merchandise and do the tie-ins and do the movie and do the Burger King, like the kids meal toys, and do all that, and risk like burning yourself out on this thing that you love. I'm To a certain degree, I feel like I have some fear of that level of success. Like, I don't want to become so successful that I end up hating the thing that I love that I wanted to get into.
yeah. That um, I was just talking, and this is the cool thing. When this guy called me, I was not expecting. He has 317.
Okay.
So he's a medium-sized YouTuber, but he's not insanely big. He's not like that corporate level big, but he's got a good following. Like, I would be ecstatic if 317,000 people tuned in to watch my, right, or to hear me talk. But when he called me right on the spot, I came up with our vision for the show, and I thought about it, and it was crazy how quick things can go in your mind. I was like, he asked me about it a little bit, and I said, honestly, there's so many big YouTube channels that started out small and did meetings with other smaller YouTube channels, and they slowly built themselves up like that. And then they got huge, and then they only focused on other people are huge, and they forgot about that. And I said, I never want to forget about that smaller guy, because that's where the biggest chunk of content on YouTube is. People don't realize that because they watch only things that are in their recommended or only things from these big people. But there's millions and millions of people on YouTube watching these medium level YouTubers. They're just not all in one place. They're dispersed. And I love that. I love the idea of having all these interesting people. And not only will I be able to help them grow some more, I'll be able to grow through them. It'll be a 50-50 thing. And even, let's say I get big. Let's say I have 10 million subscribers one day in 10 years. I would still 100% be willing to go to somebody that has 10,000, and talk with them about what they do, as long as they're committed.
Right. And also, at the end of the day, the number of followers, the number itself, is no indicator of how good you are, or how
Exactly.
successful you are, or how creatively fulfilled you are. The number is a metric that indicates how promoted you are and how good you are at buying ad space and finding an agent that'll put you out there. Yeah, so somebody with even 100 followers, who knows what's out there? The internet is open to the entire universe. There's no way of knowing just how many people are out there, how much undiscovered talent is out there, and how many potential partners are out there.
Yeah. I find it amazing. Now, you said you're in Pennsylvania, right?
Right now. I'm not originally from Pennsylvania. I was born in Connecticut. I lived there for most of my life, but I met my wife in.
That's awesome. Okay, so probably 11 years ago now, I went up to Pennsylvania with my mother to see her childhood friend who lives there. She's like she married this guy who's rich.
What part of Pennsylvania?
No, that's the thing. I don't remember specifically.
Okay.
But we went up there. There was this place. Let's see if you know. There was this place that we went to. This is the only thing that I remember other than their house. We went to this place. It was kind of like an electronics place. It was for kids. They go through. They can build airplanes, and there was like all these airplane things. Like it was like a museum almost, but it was modern, and it showed all these different little things, activities, and stuff for kids to do, but in sort of a colorful museum style.
It wasn't all airplanes. It was like a kids museum.
I think it was mainly focused on airplanes, but it was like different parts. Now, keep in mind, I was only 8 years. It was 10
Okay.
years ago, so I don't remember for sure, but I'm pretty
Well,
sure
right
it was
off the
focused
bat,
around.
Yeah, right off the bat, that almost sounds, and this is assuming you were in Lancaster, which I don't know if you were even in this area, but the only thing I know of that's like that is called the Lancaster Science Factor. And that's like a kids museum. It's very interactive. There are all kinds of like buttons you can push and you can run and all kinds of little rides, interactive things like that for kids. I don't know if that was it, but that sounds like it.
Yeah, I'm looking at images right now. It might be because it looks close enough for it to have been. But like I said, I can't remember for sure because it was so long ago. But I've been in Pennsylvania. It's cool. I've been in almost every state.
Have
I've been
you?
in almost every. Yeah,
What states are
especially
you
since.
missing?
I'm sorry.
What states are you missing?
Kind of around like towards the New York and places surrounding there because like if you look at Florida and you look at Idaho, you can kind of see that we went through every one of those states, and pretty much every time we went through, we've went multiple times from Florida to Idaho to North Dakota back down to Florida. So you can see all the states we crossed, and we stopped and stayed in pretty much every state that we crossed. But you don't just take a beeline straight through because of how the roads work. You take a lot of the time we'll go like straight up from Florida and then to the left towards Idaho. So we've been in a lot of places, but Pennsylvania. Actually, I think I might have gone to New York one time when I was like 4 or 5. I'm having slight memories of it to see my mom's parents, but I don't quote me on that. It's either New York or Los Angeles. So
Okay,
that's a pretty big
no
jump.
But that's a lot of travel. So I know from what you told me, you originally moved to Idaho because your grandparents weren't doing it. Why the moves back and forth? Why did you?
Okay, so I don't know where my grandpa was, but my grandma was from like Georgia, Florida, or around down south. And when my grandfather passed away a couple of years after that fall, my grandma decided to move back down here. I still have great grandparents alive, both of them. My great grandma, my great grandpa, her parents. So she moved back down here to be close with them. Her brother, I can't remember if he got sick before we came down or after, but he has Parkinson's, my Uncle Paul.
Okay.
So she came back down here to be around them, help take care of them, and be around more people that she loved that could support her. It's a care system. But and then eventually we moved back down here because almost all of our family, from my understanding, I don't know too much of a person.
Why is that? Did they keep it from you?
No. They would always encourage me, but being a kid, you're focused on what you want to do, and if you can get out of something that you don't want to, you pretty much, yep, thank you. I'm gonna sit here and play Minecraft. But
Right.
actually, it was never super into video games. I'd have spurts where I'd play them for a while, but being in Idaho, super slow internet, it could take days for a game to download, and there was almost always a problem in the middle of it downloading.
By the time you downloaded, the damn sequel will be out.
Yeah, so I was always out in the woods, which probably could have been dangerous. I don't know if you know about Idaho too much, but there are giant wolves, there's bears, there's coyotes, but the wolves are the biggest thing that you don't want to get you caught up with. But I would walk around, and it was like we built fort. So the second house we had in Pierce, Idaho, on the mountain, there was a fort like half built directly behind it, and we fixed it up and we got it built. We had 8 forts in total all around the woods built. And we had trails from it. It was like miles and miles. And we would go around there and play airsoft. We would always be out in the woods, but I didn't focus on computers a whole lot. I loved being outside.
Right.
Florida kind of ruins that for me. It's too hot.
What's funny?
Yeah, it's way too hot. Can't do it.
I was into video games when I was younger, not to the point that I was always inside. I mean, when I was younger, video games weren't as engrossing as they are now. I mean, there was nothing like Minecraft, you know.
Yeah.
But I sort of got back into them later in life. Like once I moved out and I got my own place, it was almost like I had my own income. I could get back all of these things that I used to have when I was younger that I really liked that I fell out of. So I definitely identify with that. Like I'm into video games, but definitely not. I'm not a hardcore gamer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not like an addiction thing.
No,
like
not at all. It's
Yeah.
something to do. I like Tetris. I like puzzles and things. Like I always like keeping my mind going. That's like my favorite. Tell me about some of your adventures in the woods.
Oh yeah. I think I when I filled out that form, I gave you a glimpse.
I think you did.
So the most memorable ones, we'll start with those because every time I talk about it, more come to mind because I was there for many years and I did a lot of things.
Okay.
Me and my buddy Joey, so he moved into the Pierce house that we were originally right after we moved out, right down the road. So
Okay.
My brother kind of became friends with him, but my brother was come and go because we have different dads, same mom. So his dad was still down in Florida here, and my mom and dad, his mom, my dad, were up in Idaho. So he would go and move down with his dad for a bit, and then he'd move back with us, move down with his dad, move back with us. So he kind of became friends with them, but it was kind of an unstable thing. So I became friends with them through him, and they were much older than me. But me and Joey are still friends to this day. I just talked to him. He's in the Army now, getting married. I went up to his house, and I love fire. He loved fire. So I'm like, let's make a Molotov cocktail. He's like, bet. So we get some high proof alcohol. We get gasoline. We get oil. We anything that says flammable on the bottle, we put in there. Put a rag in the top. It was a beer bottle. And we walked out in the back of the woods real far away from the house, probably like half a mile away from the house. And there's a big old patch of barren rocks and trees hanging over it. We're like, okay, it's just rocks. We didn't think about the tree. He threw it. I hear bust. I look, and there's fires everywhere. So I go, oh, shit. And he's like, he looks at me, and it's just this dead stare, and he goes, get the water. So I run to the house, and I'm tiny at this point. I'm somewhere between the ages of 10 and 12. And I start filling it up. I fill the whole bucket up, and I start running. I can barely even hold above the ground. I pour out almost the entire bucket by the time I got there. And he's trying to trickle a little bit of water on it. I run back. I do that again. And we actually got the fire out. We would have been in a lot of trouble if we didn't.
Wow.
How much
area did that fire cover?
Whoops. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
If I had to think about it, in a radius, it was probably a 10-foot radius. So it was.
That's a big fire. That's a big enough
nobody
fire
to have. Yeah.
You can do some damage.
For nobody to have. Yeah. It was a bad situation. We're lucky it didn't. It started climbing up this one little tree that was dead, and we got it out. We're very lucky we got it out because once that happened, it's hard for somebody with no water, no hose or anything to get it out. And the big problem was there's no way anything could get back there to get it out. They could try dumping through a helicopter. But we get to the house, and he says, we got to shower so they don't smell this. I'm like, nah, man, we're good. Then I did it with my friend Justin. We went out behind his house, and we had this little fort, and we dug a little fire pit. And we did gasoline and oil. That's all we make. And we poured it a little bit on there. I remember I was young. I was like, my starting fluid. So I lit it up, and we're just sitting there with this little fire going. And somebody came walking by, and we're like, oh shit. So we throw this like a woolen blanket. It's like yarn, but the blanket's all holy.
That's my soundproof. I have this right here in my door.
We threw that on there, and we stomped on it, and we forgot about it. We walked away. We're like, yeah, we're just picking huckleberries. And there was this kid, his neighbor, was trying to hang out with us, a little younger than us.
The old picking huckleberries excuse.
Yeah.
I don't mind them. They're just picking huckleberries.
I remember there was a huckleberry bush or a couple huckleberry bushes, and we walked over to them. And we're like, yeah, we're just picking huckleberries. Like, we smell fire. But
right.
their son was a little snitch, and I mean, it is what it is. Kids have their nook, but his was being a snitch. But he always wanted to go everywhere with us, and we didn't do anything that was okay in the woods. We didn't do anything that was okay. It was all parents not approved.
It was all bad shit. You were doing bad. It was Walter.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah, and he was like, let me come. And then we're like, okay, how do they find our stash of porn, or how do they find our stash of gasoline that we had out here to burn stuff? Like, well, dude, you're not with us anymore. Go away. Well, we go inside, and he comes, and we're sitting there. I still have the lighter in my pocket. We hear a knock on the door, and it's his dad, and he goes, "Did you guys start a fire in the woods?" And I was like, "No."
Nope.
I look at Justin. He's the guy I was there with, and he's like, "No, no." And I said, "It was George, the guy's son, that knocked on the door." He's like, "I know my son wouldn't do that." Blah blah. And me, being the smart ass I was, tossed the lighter behind his son on the couch when I got up. I'm like, "It was him. Check his pockets." And he goes, "It wasn't me." He stands up, and the lighter slides down to the bottom. And his dad goes, They didn't fucking believe a single word I said. They didn't believe the lighter, nothing. They were like, "It was me." And I got.
Oh, he didn't fall for that.
Yeah, no one fell for it.
Wow.
Justin's mom was like,
I
"No,
would
you
have
guys
thought
did
that
it." It
was
was
perfect. I thought he had the lighter on him.
yeah.
Wow.
But like, you got to think, his son never did anything like this and was always snitching on everybody. So it was kind of, I should have thought that through. I should have just gotten rid of the lighter and said someone else.
You gotta watch it. Sometimes it'd be your own.
Yeah. So that kid eventually came out. We had this dirt hill. It was this giant tree that was kind of coming out of the side of this cliff, and this chick that would hang out with me and Joey, her dad climbed up there with spiked boots and tied this metal cable around the top of the tree and got this old school, those giant metal steering wheels that used to be in old school vehicles.
Oh yeah.
He tied that to the bottom of the cable, and we jump off one side of the cliff and swing to the others. Well, that kid begged to come with us one day, and he got what was coming to him. He broke his arm. So
yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, he stopped snitching. No,
You gotta,
no,
when it comes to a snitch, you have to teach them when they're young that this is what happens. You can be a snitch, but you're also gonna get you're gonna get what's coming to you.
And but I don't
You're
have
gonna arrest us after this podcast.
Yeah, they're gonna come for us. But
ban outside right now.
Yeah, and then the last, and we fucking top the game here, man. We set the bar high. My mom had this old Suburban, this red Suburban. It was like a nice, and we were at my grandparents' house right after my grandma moved. We were staying there for the last couple of weeks before we moved. There was this dirt road down to another guy's house, and then it went through all these fields because wheat and potatoes weren't in those fields, but it's Idaho, so you got to add potatoes.
Of course. If it's
just different, various types of wheat. I'm trying to think of the other one that grows up there. Alfalfa. That all grows up there, and it was during a drought, and every night you could see a glow around the mountain, and it was actually trapping us on the mountain to a certain degree. People couldn't go down the grade to get out of there, and they were trying to get them under control. So it was really dry out. The grass and the wheat was already cut, and the stalks that were left were ready to light. Right, they'd burn up in an instant, and they burn that every year, control fires. But this year, of course, they weren't going to do it because it could get out of hand. Well, my mom says, "You guys can drive the Suburban." I was 12 at the time, and my buddy was 15, 16, so he was driving it. She said, "You guys can drive down the dirt road and back up." I'm like, awesome. So we drive down there. We get to the bottom of the dirt road, and there's this dirt and this wheat in the back, and we had two options. We could go back home like we were supposed to, or we could drive the Suburban out into the field and do donuts. So us being the responsible young adults we drove out into the field and did donuts. Yep. But here's the sad part of this. So my grandpa had just passed away a few months before, and nobody really believes me except my buddy that was with me. We, in that field, at the back of that field on the edge of the woods, we built a deer hunting blind, or we started to. We never finished it. Me and my grandpa did. It was like one of the last things we did together. And I wanted to go find it. So we did donuts at the very front of the field by the road still. And then we drove out way into the field, and I realized I couldn't get through the fence. And I turned around and I came. I was wanting to show him that hunting blind me and my grandpa built. And right at the edge there, that we made it to that mid fence, right at the edge of that, it caught fire from hot exhaust. And a huge portion of the field burnt down. And police came, fire trucks came, ambulances came, and that was bad. That was bad. My buddy, so when we were driving back to the house, a guy stopped us. Bill's son. Bill was like the owner of the house that was right back there, and he goes, "Did you guys drive in the field?" And we're like, no. And he's like, well, there's a fucking fire now. We're like, oh no, it's just us, man. So we drive back down to the house. It's starting to get dark. We look out there and it's just red glow. We're like, oh no. All that shit shows up. They get it out, and then Joey is scared by this point, right? I deal really well under pressure, but I was still young at that point. So I was like, hey, come out, man. The cops want to talk to us. I don't want to. He's like, got a shit. I'm like, what? Right now? Dude, please just hold it. Come out. He's like, I can't. I'm about to shit myself. So he goes and he takes a shit. And I'm a very loyal person, right? And he was loyal too. He wasn't trying to pussy out. He came right out after relieved. But I took the blame. The cop said, who was driving? I said, me. He said, only you? And I said, yeah, it was just me. My buddy was in the passenger. And I was 12 at this time, so I didn't have a license. So it was really bad. So he said, all right, I'm not going to give you a ticket because you're young. I don't want you to have any points on your license even have. So I'm just going to let you off with a warning this time. They weren't pressing charges or anything, so it was all good. Then he called back at 9
fire,
p.m.
they didn't press any charges?
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing. They all knew my grandpa and my grandma. Everybody knew everybody there, right? So they're like, no damage was actually done because they burn the fields every year anyways. They got the fires out. It didn't spread to the point where it was out of control. So they said everything's good.
Wow, it really is buddy up there, huh? Holy shit.
Yeah, and that was good for me. But then the cop called and said, I decided to give you and your mother a ticket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I had to go to court because I was underage driving without a license. So that was on my record. And, insurance is already high for a young male under the age of 25.
Right.
So that was shitty until it got expunged. But it was a good and bad experience. It was a good learning experience. He made me go to a course. I had to do this course, a defensive driving class. And it made me very scared of going fast for a long. I wouldn't get in the car if I knew we were going to go 6 miles an hour because he freaked us out.
Yeah.
Let
me ask you.
We did.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man. No, go ahead.
No. After you. What were you gonna say?
I was just saying we did a lot of crazy stuff. We did a lot of, and I'm sure there was a lot crazier things we did, but that one that took the legal cake, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, arson is like no joke, especially up there where you have a lot of wilderness and you have a lot of probably protected wildlife, right?
Oh yeah, and a lot of like Lewis and Clark trails and stuff like all throughout there, and Indian sites, all this protected territory that you're not supposed to mess with. So
Balin, get your shit together.
Yeah, I mean, Joey was taking a shit, so.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. But
let me ask you, how did you meet your wife?
Steak and Shake. She was working there.
Wow, what were you doing at Steak and Shake? Were you a cashier? Were you cooking?
Okay, so I started out on Shake Station, right? And I taught myself because the chick that they had teaching me, I did finger quotation marks there, just so you know. She sat there on the phone her whole time, and so I learned it was pretty simple: cookies and cream, vanilla, ice cream, milk, and then orange. So I taught myself all that. And this is the thing, gas station and fast food jobs, the people, they're designed. At least the low level employee part, they're supposed to be for kids. They're supposed to be for younger kids to get started, and then people have gone and made it a way of living, which is fine. You got to do what you got to do. But I was motivated still, and all these people were run down and tired of it. So I got good at shakes. And then the general manager, the district manager came in. She's like, "How about we put you on grill?" Which was illegal. They were willing to put me on grill, which you're not supposed to be on grill or anything to do with fryers until you're 18 because it's 18, liability. Right. Yeah, they were willing to do that because I was good enough. We think you can do this, and so I became like the best fucking grill master. I was the best at shakes. I was one of the best at prepping the food, or not prepping, dressing the food. I say one of the best because my co-host Marlon is a dresser. I can't say I was the best. Might get him mad.
All the thunder. I got it.
Yeah. And then I learned drive-through, and then I started serving. I did everything in that building. I did everything, and then they were pissed at me when I quit. Now I gave them as much notice as I could too. I gave them almost they hate my neighbor, or just two or three houses down, was actually one of the managers there. She moved here a couple months before I quit, and she doesn't even like talking to me now. I'm like, man, for 2 years I slaved for you guys. You won't even talk to me.
There's people over there gotta stop taking jobs so serious. It's not all that. So your wife though, so
no,
what was she doing there?
She was a server. Yeah, okay. They mainly had female servers. They didn't have any males. They didn't like that, but I was that person who would work any shift and do anything for them. So on a third shift, when they need someone and someone calls out, I'm like, sure, I'll do it. I'll stay till 7 a.m.
Right.
So I would do it. And I kind of got my in, and I got to that point where if someone called out, I was good enough to do anything. They're like, come on in. I worked 90 something hours in 1 week there. My last 2 weeks, it was bi-weekly. You get paid every 2 weeks.
Right.
The first week for that paycheck, I worked 90 something hours, and the second week 50. So it was like almost a $2,000 paycheck from mad, and they were so mad.
Well, even that was probably illegal too, right? Because you can't 16 or 17 work that.
Yeah. Every hour after 30 hours, right, they get fined up to a few $1,000s. They accrue. Now, they don't have to pay the fines unless they get audited. And I think in the course of 3 months, it was like $100,000 I accrued up in fines if they got audited. But they weren't getting an audit, so it didn't matter to them.
Right.
They just brushed it off. And I wasn't going to say anything because I was working. They were allowing me to support my then girlfriend at the time. But if you don't mind me asking, how did you get into podcasting?
Well, I went to school for broadcasting. I went to Southern Connecticut State University, and I've always wanted to be a broadcaster. My dream was to be a game show host. And I went to school for broadcasting with the hope of becoming a newscaster or a reporter, and then making it in the field that I wanted to from there. Because I felt like once you're on TV, you can go anywhere as long as you have the talent for it, as long as you sharpen the talent for it. So when I was younger, just heading into college, I used to work at Walgreens overnight. And one of the things I used to do, like to practice for myself on the overnight shift, 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm taking my break in the break room, I used to read the newspaper to myself out loud, like in a news voice. I used to like practice my voice because I stuttered for years, and I still have a little bit of a stutter. I went to a speech pathologist, and they kind of taught me some skills that took care of it. But I used to just practice that voice over and over and over and over and over again. Eventually, when I got to school, I was surrounded by all these people who wanted to do what I wanted to do. I worked at the campus radio station. I ended up managing the campus radio station, worked on a TV show in New York, met my wife, moved to Pennsylvania. And I work in hospitality now, which I get to talk to people from all over the world in a different kind of way. I really enjoy it. But yeah, broadcasting in general has just been like my passion for years and years and years. And now I figure while I'm home, I have the opportunity to talk to all these people who are also home. So it works out. That's
awesome. You're very well spoken.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. I try.
I've never done this whole podcast thing or YouTube thing. I tried one time when I was 16 to do the YouTube thing, but I don't have the best speaking voice. I haven't harnessed that. I haven't practiced much. So I try my best, but I hope you can hear me well. I bought these mics for our podcast.
Oh, I can hear you perfectly. You know what's funny? I'm actually on a new microphone right now. My mic just came in from Amazon an hour before we started this call. So I just installed it now, and that's what I'm using. So I hope you can.
Yeah, I can hear you good. It's all good.
So why did you want to do this show?
Now, okay, let me think for a second. I was sitting there with Marlon. Me and Marlon had these long, deep conversations about random things, be it politics, which I'm never going to go into. I'll never go into politics. That's too volatile in this day.
That's right. I don't really give a shit about anyone's politics anyway. I think it's all,
exactly like it's all bullshit. And then probably you say something about one side and you lose the whole other audience. We'd rather just appeal to everyone and keep that shit out of it. Now we have these long, deep conversations, and it's like we're in a podcast already the way we talk. And one day he messaged me. He's like, "Let's start a YouTube," and I'm like. All I said was bet, and I went and I bought a bunch of shit. And I was talking to him. I was like, "How about a podcast?" Because we want to make a name for ourselves. Of course, I'm not really doing it for money, and he's not specifically doing it for money. That's an added benefit if we get big, of course. But I love chatting with him, and I love talking to people, like especially like this, like talking to someone from a long distance. So I told we were running some ideas through, and I'm like, let's start a podcast. There's a lot less competition. Like there's like 900,000 podcasts, right? And there's 90 million YouTubers, and there's 900 blog accounts, or 900 million blog accounts. 900 million and 90 million is a lot worse than 900,000. The odds are way better with that 900. And so we kind of went into this podcast. I'm very surprised that before I even have an episode out, I got somebody to do with 317,000 subscribers to say, "Yeah, I'll come onto your podcast." So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited for you. I think that's going to be awesome. So really, I love that answer, and thank you for sharing that with me. But what I meant was, why did you want to do this with me here? Because all I did was put a form out on Reddit and say, if anyone wants to talk to me, just fill it out. Let me know. We'll do it.
No, I was actually just talking to my buddy Marlon. Now, I didn't specifically do this one to advertise our podcast, especially since we don't have an episode out. What we do, what we're doing it. I love talking. You know, I love chatting with people about things, and it's a very good way to kind of ease your mind and mellow out. I find myself I get tired the longer I talk to someone, and that's not a bad thing. From somebody who's kind of suffers from insomnia. You know, it's hard for me to get to bed at night. It's hard for me to shut my mind down. I like just casually talking to somebody and going along with the conversation. And I love seeing where the conversation ends because it usually always ends in a totally different spot than where it began.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at this conversation right now. We've traveled a great distance. Conversation.
Yeah.
I
From
learned
Florida to
how to
Idaho.
make a Molotov cocktail. That's a big item.
Right, man, just anything flammable and then oil to keep it going, man.
There you go. That's all you need. You know what's funny? I've seen, like in movies, I've seen people throw Molotov cocktails, and they look so satisfying, like that pop when they hit whatever they're gonna hit.
They really look like that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think they'd spread like that. We didn't think they would spread like that. We thought it was going to crack and barely. We didn't even think it would really start a fire, right? We're like, oh, let's do this. That fucking thing, man. It was like it blew up. It just, ground was on fire. So, yeah, they're probably pretty effective.
Right. And it must be because of the oxygen. Like once you stuff the rag into the bottle, it must be the oxygen. Once the bottle shatters, that immediate loss of pressure probably ignites the propellant in the bottle and then lights the rag on.
Yeah, it's weird. You know, you light the rag before you throw the bottle, so it has a flame going. It hits the ground, fucking blows up. But we just did a beer bottle. Imagine, like you see all those movies and stuff. They'll get like a whole vodka bottle or something.
Oh yeah, they'll do like
imagine that.
Like a flask, like a big glass. Yeah. Like
well, imagine that. We would have been screwed. It would have been over with. Like, all right, GG.
Oh yeah, go. Yeah, right.
I would have turned around and just walked home. I would just be like, all right, buddy, we weren't here.
Sometimes, man, the thing to do is just walk home. Listen, I used to be, man, this was about 15 years ago. I had a girlfriend who my family did not like her family for whatever. I'll never understand why. Everything is cool with them now. But for whatever reason, while we were together, it was just like a no-go. So like I wasn't allowed to see her, but we figured out that we would just like meet in secret. Like we used to like meet at the beach, meet at the park and stuff. So Valentine's Day came. I had to tell my parents because I was 15 or whatever. I told my parents, you know, there's a girl at school that I like. I want to get her some flowers. I want to get her a dozen roses for Valentine's Day. And they said, oh, that's so cute. You know, so they brought me to pick out a dozen roses for this girl that I was not allowed to be with. And what I did, so they dropped me off at school. And they said, all right, have a good day. All right, thanks. So instead of going into school, I walked to the park where I was going to meet her. And I walked backwards the entire way. This was probably about a mile and a half. And I walked backwards because if I were to see my parents on the road driving, or if they were to see me, I can just start walking forward as soon as they see me, and it looks like I'm just going to meet this girl. But I walked a mile and a half backwards holding flowers on Valentine's Day to see this girl. I'll never forget that.
Look, that's dedication.
It's dedication to stupidity, man. It's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a very blurred line between, you know,
especially when it comes to dudes in love. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Some stupid shit.
Now I decided not to go into it, but now I've changed my mind. I said that I never really got into games too heavy, which I didn't. It never lasted for, let's say, more than 6 months, which that can be a long time, but in the whole scheme of things. So when I first quit school, I didn't really quit school. I decided, you know, I said last ditch effort. I'm going to do online school and get it done. Did not work out. It was terrible. I could not keep myself engaged, but I would play games a bit. And I got a long distance girlfriend in Pennsylvania for a while doing that, probably 8-9 months. I was with.
And where does she live?
And I can't remember. That's what I'm saying. Like, I can't remember exactly where she was.
Okay.
I could probably message her and find out, but I don't really talk to exes.
Same.
It's on the tip of my tongue. It was like George something, or
right.
I can't remember it. But she lived 8 minutes away from where my mom's friend Brandy lived in Pennsylvania. It was cool. I'm like, damn. Well, there's actually a chance that I might meet her because next time my mom goes up there, I'll be like, hey, can I come with you? And I'll go to Pennsylvania and I'll go and see her.
Yeah, until you're going out for a Pepsi or something.
Yeah, I'm going out for a Pepsi and a fuck, but
I'll be back.
Yeah. Come back limping. What happened? Yep. She was crazy. Yeah. But no judgment here, right?
Hey, listen, this is the Planet Fitness of podcasts. This is a judgment.
Yeah. Well, I'm sitting here and I had a Pop-Tart a few days ago at my podcast table, and there were some sprinkles left over, and I just ate one. No judgment.
Yo, Pop-Tart sprinkles are. You know what I saw at the store the other day? They make Fruit Loops Pop-Tarts now.
Yeah, that's funny because I still have a Fruit Loop Pop-Tart left in my cupboard from when I bought them and realized
What
they
do
taste
they taste
disgusting.
like?
They taste like a Fruit Loop. Okay, so I vaped for a while, trying to quit smoking. I started smoking at too young of an age, so
Okay,
I got into vaping.
right.
There's this vape flavor called IO7, and it's Fruit Loop flavor. And you hit it for about 20 times, and it tastes exactly like a Fruit Loop. I didn't realize that this is the same for anything flavored Fruit Loop. You hit it too much, and it starts tasting like a lemon, and then it starts tasting like a chemical. And I'm like, oh, this is disgusting. After I did one tube of the flavoring, I went to another one, and I couldn't finish it. Well, I was eating the Pop-Tarts. I ate one Pop-Tart, and it was good. The next one tasted like lemon, and the next one's like chemical. They're disgusting. But now they have these strawberry milkshake ones, and I'll fucking
Oh, anything. Listen, anything like fruit and cream, like peaches and cream or strawberry and cream. Yes, like all day. I don't vape, but just like fruit and like whipped cream or like marshmallow in general. Yeah, I'm all about it.
I've since quit nicotine.
Good for
Every
you.
once in a while, I might, like, if someone's smoking, I might sit there with them and have a couple drags. But I'm not relying on it anymore. I did it at too young of an age, but I'm still young enough. My body will completely bounce. Like, my lungs will be good. Everything will
Right.
be
Well,
good.
good.
But you mentioned
I'm proud of you.
Walgreens, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I used to work at
Thank you.
Walgreens. Right. Yeah. No problem. Yeah. Listen, your baby's gonna thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Walgreens.
Walgreens. So Walmart bought them out, right?
No, Walmart bought out Walgreens.
Yeah, it actually yeah, I don't know if you've seen a Walgreens recently. I because up north there weren't Walgreens. So I don't know where you're at. There's not, but they changed it. The board is different now. It's like really small letters, Walgreens, blue and white. And they changed the hours immediately. They're not open 24/7 anymore. They close at like I think 9 p.m. They open at like so. It changed a lot. It just recently happened in the last 2 years because I used to live right by Walgreens and I'd go there every day on the way to. Funny that you mentioned Planet Fitness. On the way to Planet Fitness, it was all on the same street. But I remember that, and it really sucked because I went to pick up a prescription one night when I got sick a couple months ago, the coronavirus. Yes, I actually
Wait, you
had the
had it?
coronavirus. Yeah. So it was kind of at that point where
Wait a second. We did a podcast
weren't
for an hour,
heavily.
and you didn't tell me you had the fucking coronavirus.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Like, it was right around that time where they said it was like the first cases coming out, right? I don't know if you've read about it, but it's been like, there is a lot of I hate to say fake news. That's kind of a meme, but there is a lot of fake news.
Right.
And they were talking about how the first cases were during this time. When in all actuality, it's come out that there have been cases months before they said there.
Right. Right. Well, yeah. I feel like at a certain point, the media took hold of it, and it almost became a meme in the news that everyone was talking about the coronavirus. But I'm sure it existed for a long time before that. What did it feel like? What did you feel like when you had that?
It progressed very quickly.
Okay.
I was at work. It was a Saturday. It was like a Friday or Saturday. I felt a little funny feeling in my throat, right where the tonsils are, or like if you sniff in, the snot goes down your throat. It's disgusting to say, but that's where the funny feeling was, like infection, but just like numbish. So I was like, oh man, I'm getting a fucking sinus infection, or it happens when I get an ear infection too. So I work in dust, so I didn't think anything of it. The next day, it was stinging a little bit worse, like a sore throat. The day after that, Sunday, I was feeling a little hot, but my lungs were feeling fine. My throat was super. And then Monday hit. I woke up terrible. I was dizzy. I had a fever of like 102, and I drove to work swerving everywhere because I couldn't focus on the road. I got to work. I made it till 11 o'clock, and my boss said, "I'm surprised you're even here, man." And I passed out. And a truck came by honking to wake me up, and I called my boss, said, "Go to the hospital." Which is funny. I called. I didn't want to go to the emergency room, especially with all the coronavirus stuff just blowing up and people all worried.
Right.
So I called Watson Clinic. They have their emergency care place there too, but I called them. I was like, hey, can I make an appointment for today to come in and get checked out? I'm not feeling good. I got a fever. I was actually drinking nighttime cold and flu. I drove to work drinking nighttime cold and flu, which has alcohol in it, so I could have gotten a DUI.
Right.
I was like half drunk sitting there in the car just drinking that shit. But so I called and I said, yeah, oh, wait, I have to transfer you to our building department. And I was still 17 at this time. So I'm like, okay. Don't know what that means. Maybe that's just their thing. They charge you before you come in. Alrighty. She said, hey, we can take you in today almost immediately. You could just go to the urgent care, not the emergency care. They have like 2 wings. But you have to pay your outstanding balance first. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm 17, which you can't even really go to the hospital by yourself. I was hoping they'd let me. Like, yeah, you have a balance. This is Balin Diva, right? I'm like, yeah. And like your dad and mother, they said their name. I'm like, yeah, that's them. And they're like, well, it looks like back in 2015, you got stitches in your hand. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, you still have a balance for that. I'm like, so I just ended up going to the emergency. I did pay the balance, but I never went to the emergency. The next night I decided to go. I went to breathe in and I just couldn't. It was
wow. So you went and got tested.
Yeah, I went in. I got tested. At first, they didn't want to test me. They said because it wasn't when it was real big, right? They weren't quite testing for it, so they gave me a bunch of prescriptions. They said, okay, yeah, we can hear you got a lung infection. They put that shit on the back of your chest and everything. They tested me for the flu and for strep at first, and it came up negative. But they said we're just going to give you. It was like 4 or 5 not antibiotics, 4 or 5 prescriptions. One was amoxicillin. One was Tamiflu, even though it came up negative. They said just in case, which I would not recommend taking. Oh, it's so bad. It fucks so many people up. And I took it one time, and I was hallucinating. They gave me steroids, an inhaler, and they gave me one more thing. I can't remember what it was. These big pills, but the only thing that helped was the shot of steroids they gave me in the hospital. I felt so good the next day, and then it went away, and I was terrible. It lasted.
Did you get tested afterwards, like to find out if you had
yes,
it?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I went and I got tested. I was still feeling better, but it was blowing up, and I was worried. I went and I got tested. They shoved that thing down my nose. Again, I had to get one for the flu and for the corona, and then they swabbed the back of your throat and everything, and I had it. So my wife got whatever I had, so she obviously had it, and my daughter got it at the time, like 6, 7, 8 months old. And they were almost completely fine. They were only sick for a few days. They barely had any symptoms, and they were good. And that's the big thing about it. Some people barely get sick.
Right. Well, it all depends on your immune system too. I mean, well, and that's why a lot of elderly people are dying from it, because their immune systems are weaker or more compromised. But for your baby to have the coronavirus, oh my God.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like by the time I went and got tested, they were already better, so I wasn't super worried anymore. I was a lot better, but I was still worried because I was still sick. But I think the hottest I got, it was like a fever of 104 degrees, and I was freaking out.
That's incredible. That's like your body starts damaging itself at that point.
Yeah, it was terrible. I've only had a fever that high one time before, barely even. But yeah, that Tamiflu, man. I took it, and about 20 minutes later, I felt spiders crawling over my face. I was freaking out, swatting at my face, trying to get them off.
Yeah, Tamiflu is no joke. I'm trying to remember the name of the big pills that you couldn't remember, though, because I never had the virus, but I did get sick around beginning of March, and I had like a sore throat, and I had kind of a cough, and I went home. I told everybody at work, because I'm the assistant manager there. I told them, I said, I'm just going to go home for the week, and I will come back next week, and I'll have a doctor's note. I'll get whatever, because everybody there has kids, and I don't want to with whatever it might. And they gave me some big pills too. They were an antibiotic, I think. I'm trying to remember what the name of them.
Yeah, I hate swallowing pills. So they said, "Do you want all pills or liquid or whatever we can?" I would really appreciate it. Give me liquid because it's easier. Just shoot some shit down and go.
Yo, amoxicillin liquid.
So they gave me
like bubble gum. That's that shit.
Yeah, they gave me bubblegum flavored amoxicillin.
Yes.
And oh my God, it was so good, but it burned my tongue.
Joint. Yep.
Yeah, it was good. It was so good, man. I hit that. But I only took half a bottle and I was feeling better. A big thing that made me feel even worse was I didn't only have the virus. I also had a sinus infection from the dust and a double ear infection from the dust and shit getting in my ears.
Horrible. Yeah.
So I was all messed up. I had they worded it severe ear infection. My ears were all red and shit. And they said the lady there, she checked everything. Oh wow, I can see why you're miserable. You're all fucked up. I'm like, what? I was messed up.
How dare a doctor talk you that way? In my professional opinion, you were all fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, but that amoxicillin, it really helped because it you have a little infection, it clears that shit up quick. So I only kind of had to deal with the virus after that, which it wasn't that bad. A lot of people get it worse. I'm not saying it is what it is.
Right. And you're okay now.
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, I've been sicker for longer. You know.
Right.
But, the fever part, not so much. The fever was shitty, but I only had the really bad fever for a couple of days. I got it broken pretty quick. I'm not scared of a cold, sure.
You can't be. Listen, as an 18-year-old dude, you cannot be afraid of a cold shower on.
Yeah. Your dick might be, but I'm not. Yeah.
I feel you.
So what do you do?
So I am the assistant manager at a luxury hotel resort in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And
Oh, that's cool.
I started in hospitality about 5 years ago. I started at the front desk. Again, like a luxury, like 4-star hotel. I almost felt like it was too fancy for me, but that I learned everything I could possibly learn about hospitality at that job. I had so many adventures, and I feel like I've seen it all. So I worked there for 2 years. I got fired because, all right, I'm going to tell you why I got fired. So we were what they call a Forbes rated property. So Forbes, the organization, comes every year. They send what they call like an evaluator. It's sort of like a mystery shopper. You don't know who the guest is. They send a guest there. They get a room. They use the spa. They use the restaurant, and they're secretly scoring you on everything, on the cleanliness of the room, on the service, on all this stuff. So we got our report back, and we failed. And it was the lowest score the property had had in a long time. And it wasn't even just the hotel. It was the restaurant. It was the spa. It was across the board. So I was named in the report because on Wednesday night of this guest stay, she called the front desk and said, I'd like a small can of shaving cream. And I said, absolutely, I'll have that right over. So I went over to her room. I brought it, knocked on the door. She opened the door. Here's your shaving cream. Have a good night. She said, thank you. And I went to the desk. It turns out that I did not put it on a silver tray. So we lost points, and they fired.
Oh my God, man.
That was on
It's pronounced Forbes?
Forbes, Forbes, yeah.
Oh my God, man. You know how many times I've said Forbies? Oh my God.
Oh no.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Forbies. I should have gotten that from Orbeez. Like I should, man. That's not
okay.
good.
It's all good. Listen, you know now. So anyway, yeah. So I was there, went to another hotel for 2. Kicked ass there, left, came back to the first hotel. The manager, I eventually position of the guy that fired me.
Damn.
I didn't directly replace him, but I became like the manager of the hotel side of things. So yeah, I've had some experiences. But yeah, that's what I do for a living.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
It's fun.
Well,
listen,
it's an interesting story.
All over the world.
Forbies is there.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, man, those Forbies, you gotta watch out for them.
Oh man.
So, do you have any other questions?
I'm not super experienced in this, so I didn't think of a whole lot before. I tried not to. I didn't want to psych myself up. So honestly, not a whole lot. But I don't know. It's been really nice talking to you, man.
It's been awesome talking to you. We've been. An hour flies by. It's been over an hour. This is probably like one of the longest ones I've done so far.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But thank you for sharing all of the things that you shared with. Thank you for putting yourself out there and telling me how to make a Molotov cocktail. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You'll need that.
Hey, you never know when those Forbies come through. I might have to.
Yeah, those Forbies.
Chew them away.
You're not gonna. But just know that you only need half a Molotov cocktail per 5 people.
Good to know. Thank you very much. I'm writing that down. Balin, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good luck to you in your job. I hope you and your wife and your baby are well. I'm glad we're not strangers. This has been a lot of fun. And good luck with your podcast as well.
Thank you. You should come on it.
I would love to. Let me know, man. I'm home. I'm not doing anything.
I'm off Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, so anytime.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. I have your email address. We'll talk.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right, have a good one, Balin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, bye-bye. Stranger Than Christian was produced, recorded, and edited by me, Christian Carrion, here in beautiful downtown Lancaster City, Pennsylvania. For more information on the show, to listen to past episodes, or to send me an email, visit strangerthanchristian.com. Thank you so much for listening. Tune in next time to another episode of Stranger Than Christian. Bye-bye.